State Representative Tex Fischer and Representative DJ Swearingen. Welcome to Message from the House.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, good to be here.
I think this is both of your first podcast with us. So I want to just start by asking a little bit about your background and your district. Rep Fischer, if you want to start.
Sure. So I'm born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. I represent the 59th district, which is just south of Youngstown. So southern Mahoning County, a lot of the Youngstown suburbs, a lot of rural territory, and then 2 small townships in Columbiana County. Got appointed in 2024, won a full term. This is my first full GA and having a great time.
Very nice. Rep Swearingen.
Been here since 2019, actually. Old guy now. Tex keeps me young, though, so that's great. Represent Sandusky, Erie County, Ottawa County, parts of Huron County. It's a very interesting district, very fun district. We've got Cedar Point, we've got Ohio's Islands, we've got a lot of tourism. We also have a lot of manufacturing, a lot of agriculture, so it's a very diverse economy. A lot of great people. Enjoy living there, enjoy representing it in the State House.
And before we get into the bill we were going to talk about today, House Bill 246, I want to ask, when you got to the legislature or as you're in the legislature, what are your focus areas? Or are there sectors that you focus on more than others or like to focus on?
Yeah, I think one of the big areas that I like to focus on is energy. I think that's critically important, especially in Eastern Ohio. We are capable of producing a lot of energy. So energy, government efficiency, and things like this that are supporting Ohio workers, I think are critically important, very important to my district and to the people that I represent.
And for me, when I first got here, the big issues were jobs and workforce, and they still are, especially getting students exposed to skilled trades, career tech, things like that, giving folks options and kids options who don't necessarily want to go to college. Maybe they want to start their own business. Maybe they want to go right to work. Maybe they want to pick up a trade. I come from a district that suffered from offshoring of jobs. I think Texas from a similar situation. So we're very sensitive to the fact that, offshoring and pushing everyone into college wasn't right for our communities, and we've been rebounding since then. So we want to give a lot of different options to people living in our communities. We want to try to retain the kids who graduate from our high schools, and if they do go to college, to have them come back and start their business or work in our district. So
I think that perfectly catapults us into the bill, which focuses on workforce. It's House Bill 246, like I said, the E-Verify Workforce Integrity Act. It was recently signed by the governor, so congratulations to you both. Talk about how this bill came about and how you got the idea for it, and then we'll kind of go through its parameters and things like that.
Sure. It really started last General Assembly, and it had multiple hearings in the House, passed the House, and have to give a lot of credit to former Representative Scott Wiggum, who's now the clerk of courts for Wayne County and termed out. But this was really a passion project for him just to protect American workers and American jobs. And you see a lot of offshoring, but you also see offshoring through bringing in illegal labor. So maybe the jobs aren't going overseas, but they're being filled by someone who's here illegally. And that's not fair to the people who live in our state. So it was a passion for Scott and joined him on that effort. We got over the Senate and had about 3 to 4 hearings before we ran out of time before lame duck. We changed the bill a little bit this General Assembly, and Representative Fischer was happy to jump on, and I was happy he raised his hand to do that, and really focused on the construction aspect of E-Verify. So the bill applies to construction jobs in Ohio and requiring E-Verify for any workers on construction sites.
Yeah, I heard about this issue. Obviously, it's been kicked around for a long time. It was discussed last General Assembly when I was here for the final 6 months of that. Heard a lot of feedback from local workers in my district that this was an area and a bill that they really wanted to see happen. DJ was already working on it, so we just kind of tag teamed and took it from there.
Very nice. So what exactly does it do?
So it requires anyone on a construction site in Ohio, commercial construction, to verify any worker through the Department of Homeland Security through the E-Verify system. It's a free system. It's no cost to the employer, and it verifies their eligibility to work in the United States. Every employer fills out an I-9, and that contains all the information that's needed for the E-Verify system to successfully verify whether that person can work here or not. So we're already collecting all this information. We're just taking the next step of putting it through the E-Verify system to acknowledge whether that employee is legally here. And it protects workers. It also protects small businesses who are doing it the right way. All the small businesses that are hiring workers who are here legally, that are playing by the rules, and they're also helped by this bill as well.
Yeah, I think we put a lot of effort into this to make sure that it was business friendly. This is something you can check in a potential employee's authorization to work here in 3 to 5 seconds. The system is available 24/7, 365, no cost at all to the employer. So we were very conscious, we're not looking to add more mandates and more red tape for business owners to comply with, but we also see that this is a real problem. You see, particularly in the construction industry, that's where we wanted to start because we feel like it's the lowest hanging fruit, especially in areas in Central Ohio where they've seen a lot of growth. There are huge problems with the workforce being filled with people who are simply not supposed to be here and shouldn't be working, and those are taking jobs from the American and Ohio construction workers that we want to try to support.
I guess, were you surprised, Rep. Swearingen and even Rep. Fischer, that these weren't even parameters in place yet? I mean, listening to it sounds a little common sense. So when did you learn about it first, that there were no requirement?
Well, I think there are 22 or 23 other states in the country that have some sort of E-Verify mandate, including most of our neighboring states. So what I heard from the folks back home was that Ohio, in many ways, has become a magnet because, there's a lot of development happening, again, particularly in Central Ohio, but across the state, where if you're looking to funnel some folks here illegally to try to find work for them, we've got a big welcome sign as soon as you cross the border into Ohio because we didn't have anything like this. So you see a combination of red states, blue states, and again, almost every state that neighbors Ohio, with the exception of Kentucky, has E-Verify in place already. So I think we were just making ourselves a magnet for all sorts of bad actors to come here, and it makes it really difficult for the folks that are trying to work hard and make a living in the construction industry, which is already a tough industry. You kind of live and die based on the broader economy. You have seasonal work. There are all these built-in disadvantages to that industry that when you have to compete with folks who are not here legally, who can undercut your wages by a significant amount, leading to all sorts of potential workplace safety issues as well for everybody else. I think it was just a no-brainer, and I have to say I was also really surprised to learn that this isn't something that we did 10 years ago. But I was happy for the opportunity to team up and actually get this done, and really appreciative for the governor for signing it and for the unanimous passage out of both chambers, which is incredibly rare, especially on something like this that does kind of deal loosely with immigration enforcement. The fact that we're able to get this done unanimously, I think, speaks volumes to just how needed this was.
Sure.
Rep. Swearingen?
Yeah, I'd echo everything that Rep. Fischer just said.
When did you first hear about it? Was it 2019 range when you got in, or?
It's interesting. When I first got into the legislature, it was the first Trump administration, so immigration wasn't as hot button of an issue as it is now because the border was secure.
Yeah.
And honestly, you look back historically, I mean, the border, I would say, was a bipartisan issue in the 90s, 80s, and dating back all the way since our country started. Really, I think only recently has whether our border should be open and closed be a political football. But I think under the Biden administration, we saw our border, which was wide open. We saw millions of illegals come in. So then it sort of became an issue over the last 5 years. And the stories we heard just from the interested parties about the abuses of illegal labor and to some extent, these illegal laborers are being taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're really being abused. There's a lot of human trafficking involved in this. The cartels are involved in this. It's really nasty stuff. So, not only is it justice for the American people, but it's justice for the people who are find themselves trapped in that system as well. And, I think over the last 5 years, we've seen an exponential increase in it. And, as President Trump has closed our border the last year and tried to get that under control, working with the states, I think we'll see a lot of improvement here in the next couple years. So.
And you had mentioned that the E-Verify program is already in practice federally. Mm-hmm. You said it only takes even just a couple minutes to verify. Can you talk through, for people that are unaware of that, what it does?
Yeah, Representative Wiggum actually E-Verified his own self last General Assembly. Took him a couple seconds, but it takes your personal information that's collected in an I-9 and it puts it into the system that's run by the Department of Homeland Security, and almost instantaneously it says whether you're eligible to work in the United States or not. It's pretty neat, and they use it on a lot of federal contracts, but it's been expanded now to different states, like Representative Fischer mentioned, as the need has kind of arisen over the last several years. So it's a nice tool, and there's a lot of statistics out there that when a state has E-Verify, it dramatically, and it really in any form, because you can apply E-Verify very broadly as well to different industries. But any form of E-Verify cuts down on a state's illegal immigration tenfold. So we're looking forward to that in Ohio.
Very nice. Thank you. And so, what has been the response from stakeholders and constituents like along the way of this going through the committee process, it now getting passed and signed in? What's the feedback been?
So in my experience, and I can't speak for Rep. Swearingen, but it's been almost universally positive, which is incredibly rare. So we had, I think we may have only had one opponent through the committee process that came in at the 11th hour. Great support from the folks back home. I actually brought a couple of folks from the local building trades up for the bill signing last week, and they were really appreciative because this is a huge issue for them. Their members are fighting and competing with folks who shouldn't be here for these jobs that, again, they're undercutting their wages. They're potentially a workplace safety hazard because they're not trained. They don't understand our laws. In some cases they can't speak English. There are all sorts of pitfalls here. But to see the near universal outpouring of support for this bill was really refreshing. I would actually say I was pleasantly surprised by that. I expected that, given how contentious these border issues have become these days, which I still can't wrap my head around why, secure borders is a partisan issue right now. But the fact that we were able to get such broad support from folks across the spectrum has been really refreshing.
Yeah, I would echo what Representative Fischer said. I think the response has been overwhelmingly positive on my end. People are just very grateful that we're doing something at the state level to address fairness and competition in the workplace. A lot of these tradesmen and women, they're happy to compete. I mean, as long as it's an even playing field and they're competing with people in the trade that are here legally, that are doing it the right way. We believe in meritocracy. We believe in the most skilled people getting the jobs. That's hard to do when you have illegal labor messing up the whole system. So people are really happy. And there's a personal element to this as well because, I think many of us live in neighborhoods where there's tradesmen and women, in the neighborhood around. Their kids go to our schools. They pay taxes in our community. They're involved in nonprofits or whatever, volunteering hours back. And, those people are displaced when we bring in illegal labor to our country. So it hits home to us personally, for all those folks that we know back home that do those jobs and are at risk of losing them to unqualified labor.
Yeah, I think there's a huge economic impact to this as well, because when you talk about these illegal workers who come in, a lot of times you look at the data, it's alarming of the amount of dollars being sent back to their home countries in the form of remittances, that if you're hiring people who are supposed to be here, hardworking Ohio men and women, they're going to spend those dollars in our community. They're going to reinvest those dollars. They're going to pay taxes on those dollars. That when you're allowing these illegal workers to take these jobs, we're losing out on all the benefits we've already talked about. But then there's the trickle-down effect of where these dollars are going. In a lot of cases, they're going to a foreign country and they're not being reinvested in our community. So I think there's also going to be over time, that's going to be a really positive thing for our communities as well.
That was a really good point to add in. And I want to open the floor now for both of you, anything else that you're currently working on that you'd like to highlight. I know it's a race to the finish line here as we get into the last year of the GA. So Rep. Swearingen, you want to go first? Anything you'd like to highlight?
I don't even know what to pick from. I've got a long laundry list at this point. I had a hearing today with Representative Williams on our anti-fraud bill, which I think went really well. So making sure that there's a good use of taxpayer dollars and we're not being defrauded in the state of Ohio, whether that's home health care or daycare centers. We really want to tackle that issue. So we had our first hearing today and hopefully more to follow.
Yeah, I think kind of keeping along this theme of supporting Ohio workers and working families, no tax on overtime. One of the first bills I introduced, even last General Assembly, reintroduced it this General Assembly with Representative Santucci. Really hopeful that we can get that passed into law to kind of mirror what's going on at the federal level and help incentivize those people who do want to make a living and do want to work hard to kind of align our state tax incentives to support those people, keeping a little bit more of what they earn. Then we're also working on a savings program for folks specifically in the skilled trades. That's been a long time in the works, actually talking more about that with the state treasurer today. But I think that, kind of goes along with what we're talking about here with House Bill 246 and E-Verifies. We just want to protect and support Ohio workers to the best that we can.
Great. Thank you both. Quickly, I want to talk about our social media. You can follow us on the Ohio House GOP Caucus on Facebook, Ohio House _GOP on Instagram, and OHR GOP Caucus on Twitter. You can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Representative Fischer, Representative Swearingen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.